They say powerful men fall loudly. Headlines, sirens, scandals. But Michael Cole was dying quietly. The kind of quiet no one questions. The kind that hides behind board meetings, polite smiles, and the word stress. Michael Cole was the kind of man whose name opened doors before he reached them. Founder and CEO of Coltech Industries. $1 billion valuation. Awards lining the walls of his mansion like trophies from a war he believed he had won. To the world, he was untouchable. To his employees, legendary. To his family, so he thought, beloved. And yet, every morning, his hand shook just a little longer around his coffee mug. The narrator pauses here, because this is where the story truly begins, not with a murder, but with a symptom no one cared enough to take seriously. Michael blamed the headaches on deadlines, the dizziness on age, the exhaustion on responsibility. He had built an empire. Surely it was normal that his body was finally demanding payment. His wife, Ashley, encouraged this belief gently. Too gently. "You work too hard," she would say, fingers light on his shoulder, eyes warm. "You need rest, Michael. Let James handle more of the company." James, his younger brother, his right hand, his blood. Michael trusted him without question. What Michael did not know was that every evening, when he turned his back, Ashley's warmth cooled. Her smile sharpened. And conversations began in rooms Michael rarely entered anymore. Rooms he had stopped noticing, much like the people who worked inside them. People like Jessica. Jessica had been cleaning the Cole mansion for 20 years. She had wiped fingerprints off glass railings worth more than her yearly salary. She had memorized the rhythm of the house, which doors creaked, which floors sighed, which voices meant danger. She moved like a shadow, unnoticed and unacknowledged. Michael barely knew her name. That invisibility saved her life. On a Tuesday evening, while polishing the hallway mirror outside Michael's private office, Jessica heard voices behind the door. The door was slightly open, just enough. Ashley's voice came first. Calm. Controlled. Dangerous. "The dosage needs to be adjusted," she said. Jessica froze. James responded, his tone clinical, almost bored. "I already increased it. He collapsed last week, Ash. We can't rush this." Collapsed? Jessica's heart slammed against her ribs. She leaned closer, breath shallow. "It has to look natural," Ashley said. "Stress. Burnout. A man who gave too much to his company. And when he's gone," James added, "the board votes me in. You keep your shares. We sell within a year." Silence followed. Heavy. Final. Then Ashley spoke words that would echo in Jessica's mind for the rest of her life. "He won't feel a thing." Jessica's hands began to tremble. Not from fear alone, but from understanding. The headaches. The weakness. Michael's sudden weight loss. The pills Ashley insisted he take every night. For his blood pressure. Poison. Jessica stepped back instinctively, and the floor betrayed her. A soft creak. Barely a sound. But in a house trained to listen, it was enough. The door swung open. Ashley stood there, her smile already gone. Their eyes met. For a moment, the world narrowed to that hallway. The mirror. The mop bucket. Two women on opposite sides of power. "How long," Ashley asked softly, "have you been standing there?" Jessica swallowed. She had cleaned blood before. Cuts, accidents, but never betrayal. Never this close. I was just finishing the mirror," she said. Ashley stepped closer. Her voice dropped, sweet as poison itself. "If you say one word," she whispered, "you'll disappear before anyone even notices you're gone." Jessica believed her. Ashley had the resources. The influence, the ruthlessness. And Jessica? She was just the cleaner. Ashley leaned back, smile returning as if nothing had happened. Finish your work. As she walked away, Jessica's knees nearly gave out. That should have been the end. Most people would have stayed silent. Survival demands it. But fate had already set the next move. That night, Michael returned home early. He stumbled through the front doors, pale, sweating, breath uneven. The poison was working faster than expected. His vision blurred. His chest burned like fire trapped beneath bone. Jessica saw him collapse near the coke corridor. And then she heard footsteps. Ashley and James were coming. This is the moment the storyteller leans in, lowers their voice, and lets the silence stretch, because this is where an invisible woman made a choice that would change everything. Jessica did not scream. She did not run. She grabbed Michael Cole by the collar of his designer jacket and dragged him into the darkness of a narrow coat closet, a space he had never once opened in 20 years of living there. As the door closed, the mansion lights flickered past the slats. Michael struggled weakly, confused, terrified. "Don't make a sound," Jessica whispered. Outside, Ashley's voice echoed. "Did you hear something?" From the darkness, Michael heard his wife laugh. And that laugh would be the last illusion he ever believed in. Some truths arrive like thunder. Others crawl out of the dark and whisper your name. Inside the coat closet, Michael Cole struggled to understand what was happening. The space smelled of old leather and dust. Heavy coats pressed against his face. His breath came in short, painful gasps, each one burning his chest like fire. He tried to speak. Jessica pressed a trembling hand over his mouth. "Please," she whispered, her voice shaking. "If you want to live, you have to stay quiet." Michael's eyes searched the darkness, confused and frightened. He wanted to push her away, to demand answers. But his body betrayed him. His arms felt weak. His head spun. The poison was deep in his blood now. Outside the closet, footsteps approached. Ashley's heels clicked sharply against the marble floor. James followed, slower, heavier. They stopped just a few steps away. Jessica's heart pounded so loudly she was sure they could hear it. "Michael?" Ashley called out, her voice filled with fake concern. "Honey, are you home?" Michael recognized that voice. He had trusted it for years, loved it, slept beside it. Now, hidden in darkness, that same voice made his stomach turn. James spoke next. "Maybe he went to his office." "He's been confused lately." Ashley sighed dramatically. The dosage might be too strong. The word hit Michael like a knife. Dosage. His eyes widened. Jessica felt his body stiffen. She leaned closer and whispered, barely breathing, "I'll explain later. Just listen." The closet door opened suddenly. Light poured in. Jessica's breath stopped. Ashley stood there, scanning the hallway. Her eyes passed over the closet door, but did not linger. To her, this space was invisible, just like the woman hiding inside it. Ashley closed the door again. "Let's give it time," she said calmly. "He won't last much longer." James agreed. "By next week, the board will be ready." Their footsteps faded. Only then did Jessica allow herself to breathe. Inside the closet, Michael began to shake, not from the poison alone, but from the truth settling into his bones. His wife, his brother, planning his death like a business deal. His whole life reduced to a schedule. Jessica slowly removed her hand from his mouth. Michael leaned against the wall, tears burning his eyes. Not because he was weak, but because he finally understood how blind he had been. "They're poisoning you," Jessica whispered. "I heard everything." Michael swallowed hard. "Why? Why would they power? She said simply. Money. Control. Silence filled the small space. Heavy. Painful. Then Jessica made a decision. We can't let them find you, she said. You have to leave. Now! Michael laughed weakly. Leave? I can barely stand. I know, she replied. But I know this house better than they do. And that was true. Jessica had cleaned every hallway, every hidden corner, every forgotten passage built for servants and staff long before Michael ever owned the mansion. Paths the family never used. Doors they never noticed. She helped him to his feet. His weight leaned heavily on her small frame, but she held firm. This way, she whispered. They moved slowly through the back corridors. The lights were dimmer here. The walls narrower. This part of the house had no paintings, no expensive art, only function. Only survival. Michael stumbled, nearly falling. Jessica tightened her grip. Stay with me. As they turned a corner, voices echoed again. Ashley and James were arguing softly, unaware they were just meters away from losing everything. Jessica pulled Michael into a laundry room and hid him behind stacked sheets. She stepped out alone. Ashley appeared moments later. Where are you going? Ashley asked, eyes sharp. Jessica lowered her gaze. I'm taking trash out, ma'am. Ashley studied her face for a long moment. Then she smiled. Be quick. Jessica nodded and walked away, her legs shaking. When she returned, she helped Michael through a side exit used only by staff. Cold night air hit his face. The mansion loomed behind them, glowing like a beautiful lie. They moved through narrow streets, then alleyways. Places Michael had never seen, despite owning the city on paper. Jessica's neighborhood was quiet. Modest houses. Dim streetlights. Life lived without luxury, but with honesty. Inside her small home, she laid Michael on the couch. His skin was cold. His breathing uneven. She brought water, then vinegar, then charcoal tablets she kept for emergencies. I don't have much, she said softly, but I know how to help poison. Michael watched her through blurred vision. This woman, this stranger, was saving his life while his family planned his death. Hours passed. The worst of the poison began to ease. Not gone, but slowed. As dawn broke, Michael finally spoke. I never even knew your name. She smiled sadly. Jessica. I'm alive because of you. She nodded. And you're alive because they never saw me. Michael stared at the ceiling, tears slipping down his temples. Everything he believed, loyalty, love, success, had been an illusion. And in its place stood the truth. The only person who cared enough to save him was the one he never noticed. As the sun rose, a new plan began to form. Not revenge. Not escape. Justice. Hidden in the mansion was a safe, one Michael had built himself. Inside it, proof. Contracts. Emails. Recordings. If he could reach it, the game would change. Jessica looked at him calmly. If you go back, she said, you can't go as the man you were. Michael nodded slowly. I won't, he said. I'll go back as the man they tried to kill. There is a strange kind of pain that comes when you survive something that was meant to kill you. Not the pain of the body, but the pain of the mind trying to accept that the people you loved wanted you gone. Michael Cole lay awake on Jessica's small couch as morning light slipped through thin curtains. His body felt heavy, weak, and unfamiliar. Every breath still reminded him of how close he had come to dying. But worse than the poison in his veins was the poison now living in his thoughts. Ashley's voice replayed in his head. The dosage needs to be adjusted. James's calm reply. We can't rush this. They had spoken about his life the way he spoke about product deadlines. Jessica moved quietly in the kitchen, boiling water, crushing herbs with steady hands. She had slept on a chair beside him, waking every hour to check his breathing. No complaints. No questions. Just care. Michael noticed that. In his mansion, nurses came and went. Doctors bowed. Employees smiled. But none of them stayed up all night just to make sure he kept breathing. Jessica returned with a cup. "Drink slowly," she said. "Your body is still fighting." Michael obeyed. The liquid tasted bitter, but grounding. "How long have they been doing this?" he asked quietly. Jessica sat across from him. "Months," she said. "Maybe longer. I started noticing when you stopped eating." Michael nodded slowly. He remembered that now. Meals untouched. Food tasting wrong. He had blamed age. Stress. Never once did he blame the hands that served him. "I built everything for them," he whispered. "The company. The life. I trusted them with everything." Jessica didn't interrupt. Some realizations needed silence. "I thought loyalty came with money," Michael continued. "I thought love stayed when success arrived." He laughed weakly. "I was wrong." Jessica met his eyes. "Money makes people visible," she said, "but it also hides who they really are." That sentence stayed with him. By afternoon, Michael could sit up without the room spinning. His strength was returning slowly, but his mind was already racing ahead. He knew one thing clearly now. He could not go back to the mansion as himself. Ashley and James controlled the story. If he appeared suddenly, weak and accusing, they would call him unstable, sick, confused. The board would believe them. The police would hesitate. And then he would disappear again, permanently. "I have proof," Michael said suddenly. Jessica looked at him. "Proof of what?" "Everything," he replied. "Their plans. Their money trails. Their emails. I had copies in a private safe years ago. Not because I didn't trust them, but because I trusted no one completely." Jessica raised an eyebrow. "Where is this safe?" Michael smiled faintly. "In the last place they'd ever look." That night they planned. Not like criminals, but like survivors. Jessica knew the mansion's blind spots. Michael knew its systems. Cameras. Alarms. Timers. Together, they mapped the house on a sheet of paper like a battlefield. "You can't be seen," Jessica said firmly. "If they know you're alive, they'll finish the job." "I know," Michael replied. "That's why I won't go as Michael Cole." He paused. "I'll go as no one." 2 nights later, the mansion stood quiet under a cloudy sky. Ashley believed she was winning. James was already rehearsing speeches for the board. They had no reason to expect ghosts. A service gate opened silently. Jessica stepped inside first, dressed in her usual uniform. Invisible. Expected. Safe. Michael followed, hidden beneath a hood, his posture bent, his walk uneven. To anyone watching, he was just another night worker. The house smelled the same. Polished wood. Expensive air freshener. False comfort. Michael felt something twist in his chest. "This place almost killed me," he thought. They moved fast. The safe was hidden behind a panel in Michael's old study, a room Ashley never entered because she hated how much of him lived there. Jessica stood watch while Michael pressed a sequence only he knew. The wall clicked open. Inside were flash drives, documents, printed emails, and recordings. Conversations Ashley and James never thought he would hear again. Michael's hand shook as he packed everything into a small bag. Then, voices. Footsteps. Ashley laughed from the hallway. "James, stop worrying." He's gone. Michael froze. Jessica's eyes widened. James replied, I just don't like loose ends. Jessica acted fast. She knocked over a stack of books in the corridor and cursed loudly. Sorry, she called. Clumsy hands tonight. Ashley groaned. Clean it up. The footsteps turned away. Michael exhaled slowly. His heart pounded harder than it ever had in boardrooms or negotiations. They slipped out the same way they came in. Back in Jessica's home, Michael sat in silence, staring at the evidence spread across the table. His life. His betrayal. His proof. I was blind, he said finally. But not anymore. Jessica folded her arms. What happens now? Michael looked at her, not as a worker, not as help, but as an equal. Now, he said, we disappear them the right way. Not with poison. With truth. He smiled, but this time there was no arrogance in it. Only clarity. For the first time in my life, Michael Cole said, I know who actually saved me. Jessica nodded. And for the first time, she replied, they'll see who you really are. The game had changed. And this time, the invisible ones were in control. There is a moment before every storm when the air feels too still. That was how Michael Cole felt as he sat at Jessica's small dining table, staring at the evidence that could destroy his family, or what remained of it. The documents were spread out carefully, like pieces of a broken life. Emails between Ashley and James. Bank transfers hidden through shell companies. Audio recordings Michael had forgotten he ever made. Late-night voice memos meant to protect the company, never imagining they would one day protect his life. Jessica watched him quietly. She could see the change in his face. The man who once believed power meant control was gone. In his place sat someone sharper. Quieter. Awake. You can't rush this, Jessica said softly. They've been planning for months. Maybe years. Michael nodded. They think I'm dead, he replied. That's our advantage. He leaned back, pain flashing briefly across his face. The poison had not fully left his body. Some nights, the weakness returned without warning, but the fear was gone now. Fear had no place where truth lived. They won't stop, Michael continued. If the company changes hands, if the board votes James in, they win forever. Jessica folded her arms. Then you don't attack them directly. Michael looked up at her. You let them destroy themselves. The plan was simple, but dangerous. Michael would not reveal himself yet. Instead, the evidence would surface piece by piece. Anonymous tips to regulators. Quiet emails to board members. Financial records that raised questions no one could ignore. And when the pressure was high enough, when Ashley and James were already panicking, Michael would return. Not as a dying man, but as the owner of the truth. Days passed. The world began to shift. News outlets reported irregularities inside Coltech Industries. Auditors arrived unannounced. Board members demanded emergency meetings. James smiled through it all, but his confidence cracked just enough for Michael to see it through hidden cameras Jessica had helped him access. Ashley grew tense. Her perfect mask slipped at home. She snapped at staff. Slept poorly. Checked her phone constantly. They're scared, Jessica said one night, watching footage from a small laptop. They should be, Michael replied. Then came the final move. Michael sent a single message to the board. I'm alive. And I have proof. The reaction was immediate. James called emergency meetings. Ashley demanded answers. Lawyers scrambled. But it was too late. Michael walked into the boardroom 2 days later. Alive. Thin. Pale. But standing. The room fell silent. James turned white. Ashley froze, her hand gripping the chair so hard her knuckles showed. "Impossible," she whispered. Michael looked at her calmly. "You should have increased the dosage slower." Gasps filled the room. Michael spoke clearly, slowly, simply. He played the recordings, displayed the emails, traced the money. Every lie peeled away in front of witnesses, who could no longer deny what they saw. Ashley screamed that he was lying. James tried to interrupt. But truth has a sound that cannot be silenced. By the time security escorted them out, their power was gone. Michael did not smile. He felt no victory, only release. Weeks later, Michael stood outside the mansion for the last time. The house was being sold. Every room emptied. Every illusion stripped away. Jessica stood beside him. "I never belonged here," Michael said quietly. Jessica nodded. "Some places only exist to show us what we're not." He turned to her. "I spent my life surrounded by people who wanted my money. And I survived because of someone I never saw." Jessica met his eyes. "You see now." "Yes," he said. "And I won't forget again." Michael shut down the parts of the company built on greed. He rebuilt quietly, fairly, with people who worked, not plotted. Jessica no longer cleaned houses. She sat on the board. Not because Michael owed her, but because she had earned it. And Michael Cole finally understood the greatest lesson of his life. Power does not live in wealth. Loyalty does not follow success. And the people we ignore often carry the truth that saves us. The poison nearly killed him, but the truth brought him back to life. When the news broke, it did not break gently. Tech CEO Michael Cole returns from death. Poison plot exposed inside billion-dollar company. Wife and brother arrested in shocking betrayal. The headlines were everywhere. Phones buzzed. Screens lit up. People argued, judged, and took sides. But behind the noise, Michael Cole felt something he had not felt in years. Peace. He sat in a quiet office that did not belong to the mansion or the old headquarters. It was smaller, simpler. Sunlight came in without touching gold or glass. Just clean air and honest space. Jessica stood by the window, reading the news on her phone. "They're calling you a miracle," she said. "Some say you staged it." Michael gave a tired smile. "People believe what fits their comfort." He leaned back and closed his eyes for a moment. The poison was gone now, but it had left marks. His body healed faster than his mind. Some nights, he woke up choking, convinced he could taste it again. "You could disappear," Jessica said gently. "No one would blame you." Michael opened his eyes. "No. I hid once. I won't do it again." That same day, Michael returned to Coltech, not as the untouchable CEO, but as a man who had nearly been erased by his own life. Employees stood when he entered. Some clapped. Some cried. Others simply stared, unsure whether to believe their eyes. Michael raised a hand. "Sit," he said calmly. The room quieted. "I'm not here to scare you," he continued. "And I'm not here to pretend nothing happened." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "I was poisoned in this company," he said. "Not by strangers, but by people I trusted." Murmurs spread through the room. "And while I was dying," he added, "someone you never noticed saved me." He gestured toward the back. Jessica stepped forward. Some employees recognized her. Most did not. "She worked here for 20 years, Michael said. "She saw everything. And when it mattered, she chose to protect truth instead of power." The room fell silent. "From today," Michael announced, "this company will no longer reward silence, or blindness, or loyalty to the wrong things." That day, Policies changed. Whistleblower protections were expanded. Transparency became law, not a slogan. And for the first time, cleaners, assistants, and security staff were invited into conversations that once excluded them. Not because it looked good, because it was right. That evening, Michael sat alone in his new office, staring at a photo frame he had brought from storage. It showed Ashley smiling beside him at an awards dinner. Jane stood behind them, arm on Michael's shoulder. He turned the frame face down. Some bonds were never meant to be repaired. Jessica knocked softly and entered. "They want interviews," she said. "Documentaries. Book deals." Michael sighed. "Let them wait." He looked at her. "What do you want?" Jessica hesitated. No one had ever asked her that with real interest before. "I want people like me to be seen," she said finally. "Before it's too late." Michael nodded. "Then help me build that." Outside, the city moved on. Inside, something new was beginning. Michael Cole had lost his life and found a better one. Surviving a murder attempt does not end the danger. Sometimes, it only changes its shape. Michael Cole learned this the hard way. Weeks after the arrests, the city no longer whispered his name, it shouted it. Cameras waited outside buildings. Reporters chased cars. Old friends resurfaced with worried smiles and hidden questions. Everyone wanted a piece of the story. Everyone wanted to be close to the man who had cheated death. But survival came with a cost. Michael's doctors warned him often. The poison had damaged his nerves. Stress could trigger relapse-like symptoms. Fainting. Blackouts. Weakness. "Slow down," they said. Michael tried. But slowing down meant thinking. And thinking brought memories he could not silence. Some nights, he saw Ashley standing at the foot of his bed, smiling the way she had when she thought he was dying quietly. Other nights, he heard James's voice in his head, calm and cold, discussing his life like a number on a chart. Jessica noticed the change. He stopped sleeping. He stopped eating properly. His hand shook again, not from poison this time, but from fear. One evening, she found him sitting alone in the office, lights off, staring at nothing. "You're pushing too hard," she said gently. Michael didn't look up. "If I stop, it catches up." "What does?" she asked. He swallowed. "The fact that I love people who wanted me dead." Jessica sat across from him. She did not offer comfort words. She offered truth. "You're allowed to grieve," she said, "even if they don't deserve it." Michael closed his eyes. He had grieved strangers before. Employees. Acquaintances. But grieving family, while they were still alive, was a different kind of pain. A pain without a funeral. Then came the threats. Anonymous letters arrived at the office. Some called him a liar. Others blamed him for destroying the family name. A few were worse, warnings masked as advice. Be careful. Some secrets should stay buried. Not everyone is done with you. Security tightened. Jessica read every message with calm focus. "Fear is loud when it's losing," she said. Michael wasn't so sure. One night, while leaving the office late, Michael collapsed in the parking lot. His body shut down without warning. Old damage reacting to new stress. When he woke, Jessica was there. Hospital room. Machines humming softly. "I told you to slow down," she said, voice firm but scared. Michael stared at the ceiling. "I almost died again." "Yes," she replied. "And this time, no one poisoned you." The silence that followed was heavy. "That's the part people don't understand," Jessica continued. "Surviving isn't the finish line. It's the beginning of responsibility." Michael turned to her. "Responsibility for what?" for living differently. Those words stayed with him. After his release, Michael did something no one expected. He stepped away from public life. No interviews, no speeches, no boards for a while. He moved into a small house not far from Jessica's neighborhood. No gates, no guards, just space to breathe. People called it weakness. Michael called it healing. During those quiet weeks, Michael visited employees, not offices, homes, cafes, community centers. He listened to stories he had never made time for before. Stories of workers ignored, silenced, overworked. Every story felt familiar. I used to think I was above all this, Michael confessed one afternoon. But I was just blind. Jessica smiled. Blind people can learn to see. Then came the letter that changed everything. It was from Ashley. Prison ink. Shaky handwriting. She wrote about betrayal. About love. About how she had felt invisible too, until power promised to notice her. Michael read it once. Then again. He did not reply. Some chapters do not deserve continuation. But James wrote too. His letter was shorter, colder. You ruined everything. Michael folded it calmly and placed it in a drawer. No, he said quietly to Jessica. I survived everything. And survival, he was learning, was not about revenge. It was about refusing to become what almost killed you. There comes a time when running from the past becomes more painful than facing it. For Michael Cole, that time arrived quietly, on an ordinary morning that felt heavier than most. He stood in front of a mirror in his small house, adjusting the collar of a plain shirt. No tailored suit. No expensive watch. Just fabric and skin and breath. The man looking back at him did not resemble the CEO the world remembered. This man had shadows under his eyes. Lines that spoke of fear, regret, and awakening. Today, Michael was going back to the mansion. Not to reclaim it. Not to mourn it. But to let it go. Jessica waited in the car outside. She did not rush him. She understood that some doors could only be opened alone. The drive was silent. When the mansion gates came into view, Michael's chest tightened. The building looked smaller than he remembered. Less powerful. Almost empty. Without people inside, without lies filling its walls, it was just stone and glass. The gates opened. Michael stepped out of the car. Every step toward the front door felt like walking through a memory. The hallway where he used to argue on the phone. The stairs Ashley used to descend smiling. The corner where he collapsed the night Jessica saved him. He paused there. His legs trembled. Jessica stayed back, giving him space. Michael entered the house alone. The echo was loud now. Every sound bounced. Every breath returned to him. The mansion no longer felt alive. It felt exposed. He walked into his old office. The desk was gone. The awards removed. The walls bare. This room had once defined him. Now, it asked a question he could no longer avoid. Who are you becoming? Michael sat on the floor and let the memories come. The late nights. The missed birthdays. The belief that success could replace presence. That providing money was the same as providing love. He closed his eyes. I abandoned myself long before they poisoned me, he whispered. Tears came. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just honest. For the first time, Michael did not push them away. Outside, Jessica watched through the window, her chest tight. She had seen broken people before. But this was rebuilding in real time. When Michael finally stepped back outside, his face looked lighter. Tired, but clear. I needed to see it empty, he said, so I could stop filling it in my head. Jessica nodded. Some places only hold power because we give it to them." As they drove away, Michael did not look back. That same week, something unexpected happened. Michael received an invitation, not from the board, not from the media, but from the company's lowest paid staff. The cleaners, the guards, the assistants. They wanted to meet him, not to praise him, to question him. The meeting took place in a simple hall. No stage, no microphones, just chairs in a circle. Michael walked in alone. "I know you don't trust me," he began. "You shouldn't. I was part of a system that ignored you." A woman raised her hand. "Why now?" she asked. "Why care now?" Michael answered honestly. "Because I almost died from the same blindness." Another man spoke. "What makes you different from before?" Michael paused. "Nothing," he said, "except that I'm finally listening." The room was quiet. Then Jessica stood. "He didn't save himself," she said. "Someone you didn't see saved him. That changed everything." Slowly, the tension softened. Not forgiveness, but possibility. That night, Michael realized something important. Redemption was not about erasing the past. It was about being willing to be uncomfortable in the present. Later, alone in his house, Michael opened a drawer and pulled out an old notebook. Inside were goals he had written years ago. Build a legacy. Be remembered. He tore the page out. On a fresh page, he wrote, "Live honestly. Protect the unseen." He closed the notebook. Outside, the city slept. Inside, Michael Cole finally felt awake. But the story was not finished. Because when you change your life, the world tests whether you mean it. And that test was coming. Change has a way of attracting attention. Not all of it good. Michael Cole had been living quietly for months when the offer arrived. It came in a plain envelope, delivered by hand, no return address. The kind of message that did not want to be traced. Jessica was with him when he opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "We know what you have. We know what you did. And we know what you could still lose." Michael's jaw tightened. Below the sentence was a time and a place. A meeting. Jessica shook her head immediately. "This is a trap." "I know," Michael replied. "Then don't go." Michael stared at the paper. "If I don't, they won't stop." For weeks, Michael had felt it. The invisible pressure. Investors pulling away quietly. Partners delaying decisions. Whispers spreading again, subtle, careful, strategic. Someone powerful was trying to remind him that survival did not mean freedom. The meeting was set for an old office building downtown. Neutral ground. No cameras. No witnesses. Michael prepared like a man who understood risk. Jessica insisted on coming. "If you disappear again," she said, "I won't forgive you." Michael gave a small smile. "Fair." The room was dim, the blinds half closed. A man waited inside. Middle-aged. Calm. Expensive suit without a logo. "Mr. Cole," the man said pleasantly, "I represent people who prefer stability." Michael sat across from him. "You represent people who benefited from my silence." The man smiled. "You've changed." "Yes," Michael replied. "That's the problem, isn't it?" The man slid a folder across the table. "Walk away," he said. "Sell your remaining shares. Leave the company completely. We make the noise stop." Jessica leaned forward. "And if he refuses?" The man's smile faded. "Then accidents happen. Stories change. Health fails again." Michael felt the old fear rise. The memory of weakness. Of darkness closing in. But something was different now. "I already lost everything once," Michael said calmly. You have nothing left to threaten me with. The man studied him carefully, then nodded. Think about it, he said, standing. This world punishes people who don't know when to stop. After he left, Jessica exhaled sharply. That was a warning, she said. Michael nodded. And a gift. A gift? She asked. Yes, he replied. They showed themselves. That night, Michael made his decision. He would not disappear again. Instead, he did something far more dangerous. He went public, not with anger, not with accusation, with truth. Michael released a detailed report outlining how powerful investors had enabled corruption for years, long before Ashley and James. Names were named, systems exposed, legal protections triggered. The reaction was immediate. Stock markets trembled. Investigations opened. Silence shattered. Jessica watched the news in disbelief. You just declared war. Michael nodded slowly. No, I ended it. The pressure intensified. Threats increased. But something else happened too. People spoke up. Employees, investors, journalists, whistleblowers. The truth spread faster than fear. One evening, exhausted, Michael sat beside Jessica on the porch of his small house. Are you scared? She asked. Yes, he admitted, but not of dying. She nodded. What then? Of going back to who I was. Jessica smiled softly. You won't. In that moment, Michael understood something profound. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is choosing not to obey it. And the cost of that choice was still unfolding. The world has a way of balancing itself. Every action has a reaction, every lie a reckoning. For Michael Cole, that reckoning arrived quietly, then all at once. The day began like any other. He was in his modest office, reviewing documents with Jessica beside him, when his phone rang. The number was unknown. No greeting. No introduction. Mr. Cole, a low voice said, you started a storm you cannot control. Your family and your allies, they are retaliating. Michael didn't flinch. He had expected retaliation. Months of surviving Ashley and James had taught him that. But this time, it wasn't personal. It was systemic. They will not stop, the voice continued. They will attack your finances, your reputation, and those around you. Walk away, or watch everything crumble. Michael ended the call. Jessica looked at him, worry etched into her face. Are you sure you can handle this? He nodded slowly. We've handled worse. But handling worse did not make it easy. The following days were a blur. Threats came from every corner. Emails filled with lies, packages left at the door, online smear campaigns, and subtle legal notices meant to intimidate. Every time Michael felt the pressure, he reminded himself of the closet where Jessica had saved him. Every time, he drew strength from the woman who had been invisible for 20 years and had suddenly become his lifeline. Then came the unexpected. One evening, a journalist called with a proposition. She had information about Ashley and James. Proof that they were working not only to murder Michael, but to manipulate the company's board for personal gain. The journalist wanted an exclusive, but she warned Michael that publishing it could make him a target of criminal retaliation and media backlash. Michael and Jessica discussed it late into the night. If we go public, Jessica said, we'll make enemies we can't see. People who don't care if you live or die. Michael rubbed his face. And if we don't, what happens? They keep running the world we thought we owned. They keep thinking power is safety. That truth can be hidden. Silence fell. Then Jessica nodded. Then we go public. That night, Michael uploaded the files carefully. Every email, every financial record, Every recording, the proof of his family's betrayal, was made available to authorities, media, and select trusted partners. It was a calculated risk. Within hours, the world reacted. Headlines screamed. Ashley and James were exposed not just as criminals, but as manipulators who had tried to kill the man they called brother and husband. Regulators began investigating Coltec. Law enforcement stepped in, but Michael felt no triumph. The exposure came at a cost. Loyal employees began fearing for their jobs. Investors panicked. Even some old friends questioned his methods. Every action created ripples, and some ripples hit hard. One morning, Michael found a note slipped under his door. No signature. Just 3 words, "We are watching." Jessica held his hand. "You've stirred the hornet's nest." Michael squeezed hers back. "Then we survived together." It wasn't just survival. It was navigation. Every day, Michael had to weigh actions carefully. Every public statement had to be measured. Every move calculated. But he no longer felt trapped. He had nothing to lose in terms of loyalty, because he had already lost everything that was false. Then the final confrontation arrived. Ashley and James were released on bail while investigations continued. They confronted Michael in a private meeting, attorneys present, cameras absent. Ashley's face was pale, her confidence shaken. James looked nervous, his usual arrogance diminished. "You think you've won," Ashley spat. "You've destroyed everything we built." Michael looked at them quietly. "I've destroyed only the illusion of loyalty and trust. What you built on lies is meaningless." James growled. "You'll regret this." Michael shook his head. "Regret is for people who believed in illusions. I survived. I rebuilt. And you exposed yourselves." Ashley lunged toward him, rage in her eyes. Security stepped in. The confrontation ended with Ashley and James escorted out, humiliated and powerless. Michael breathed deeply. He looked at Jessica. "We did it. But it's not over." "Life doesn't work like that." Jessica nodded. "We survived. That's the first step." The days that followed were quieter but tense. Michael had regained control of the company, but he knew true power now wasn't in titles or money. It was in clarity, in loyalty earned through action, and in the courage to face truths no one else would acknowledge. One evening, Michael and Jessica sat on the porch of their home, overlooking the city. "Do you ever miss it?" Jessica asked. "The old life. The mansion? The power?" Michael shook his head. "No. I miss ignorance. Not wealth. Not power. I thought those things protected me. But they nearly killed me." Jessica smiled faintly. "And yet you survived." "Yes," Michael said, "and I learned something very important. Power is nothing without truth. And truth is everything." For the first time in years, Michael Cole felt a sense of peace. He had faced death, betrayal, and fear, and he had chosen life, not as a man defined by wealth, but as a man defined by integrity. And as night fell over the city, Michael realized something deeper. The consequences of truth were steep, dangerous, relentless, but they were worth it. For surviving, for living, for finally seeing who mattered, and who had been invisible all along. Some people live their entire lives building walls around themselves, thinking wealth, power, or influence can protect them from the dangers of the world. Michael Cole had learned the hard way. Walls can trap you just as easily as they protect you. The mansion, the boardroom, the empire he had built, they had all been illusions. Ashley and James had tried to destroy him. They had believed they could kill him quietly, replace him, erase him from existence. They failed. Michael sat at the desk in his new office, Jessica beside him. The office was modest, the walls unadorned, the desk clear. No gold. No accolades. Just work and clarity. "Everything is ready," Jessica said softly. "The company is stable. The board is loyal. Your employees trust you again." Michael leaned back, letting the weight of the past month sink in. "Stable," he repeated. The word felt strange. Fleeting. After all the chaos, after nearly dying, after betrayal, after threats and blackmail, stability was almost unreal. "But that's not enough," he said finally. "We need more. We need to make sure the same thing never happens again. Not here, not anywhere." Jessica nodded. She had been with him through every step. The poisoning, the escape, the evidence retrieval, the public exposure, the threats, the ultimate confrontation. She had been invisible for 20 years, yet she had become the most important person in his life. Michael continued. "I want transparency. Not just policies on paper. Real accountability. Every employee should be able to speak without fear. Every decision must be traceable. Every executive should know that loyalty isn't to power. It's to truth." Jessica smiled faintly. "You're building a new empire." "No," Michael corrected her. "I'm building a new system. One where wealth doesn't blind you, and power doesn't corrupt you." That night, he drafted new programs. He created channels for whistleblowers. He wrote letters to employees explaining everything, including his past ignorance. He publicly admitted his mistakes, his near-death experience, and the lessons he had learned. By morning, the city was buzzing. News outlets praised him not only for surviving, but for transforming the company into something unprecedented. A business led not just by profit, but by integrity. Investors were cautious at first, but results followed. Productivity increased. Employee satisfaction skyrocketed. Even competitors were forced to reevaluate their own ethics. Michael looked out the window of his office and thought about Ashley and James. They had tried to erase him, to poison not only his body but his life. They had believed they could succeed because no one ever noticed the invisible people, the housekeepers, the assistants, the ones who quietly saw everything. Jessica had seen everything. Jessica had saved him. He turned to her, his eyes clear, steady. "I wouldn't be here without you. You would have found a way," she said. "But I'm glad I was here to stop them." Michael nodded. "We make a good team. But there's one thing I've realized." "What's that?" Jessica asked. "I was powerful because I had money. But I'm truly alive because I now see the truth. And that is more valuable than any fortune." For the first time, Michael felt something he had not felt in decades, genuine peace. Weeks later, the company hosted a town hall. Michael and Jessica walked in together, not as CEO and assistant, but as partners in vision. They spoke openly to every employee, from interns to senior executives, acknowledging past mistakes and committing to a new culture. Hands shot up. Questions were asked. Concerns were raised. Michael answered with honesty, patience, and humility. Employees listened. They believed. They trusted. And slowly, they began to follow not out of fear, but out of respect. After the town hall, Michael returned to his office, Jessica following behind. He placed a hand on the empty space where his old awards and accolades had been. The symbols of wealth and power felt meaningless now. "What now?" she asked. Michael smiled. "Now we protect what matters. Truth. People. Life." The phone rang. It was an old journalist, seeking another interview. Michael thought for a moment. Then he declined. The world could wait. He had bigger things to focus on. The empire of truth needed time, care, and protection, not spectacle. Night fell over the city. Michael and Jessica sat quietly on the porch of his modest home, watching the skyline. The lights glimmered like promises, not of wealth or fame, but of possibility. Michael spoke softly, more to himself than anyone else. I almost died believing loyalty was tied to wealth. I almost died thinking family meant safety. I almost died believing that power could protect me. Jessica squeezed his hand. You didn't. No, he replied. I survived. And now, we build something that can survive even without me. Something that can't be poisoned by greed or betrayal. A small smile spread across Jessica's face. You've already started. You just didn't realize it yet. Michael looked at her, and for the first time, he truly saw her, not as the invisible housekeeper, not as the savior who dragged him from death, but as an equal. A partner. A reminder that courage often comes from the most unexpected places. And that, Michael said finally, is the greatest fortune of all. The city slept beneath him. But Michael Cole was awake. Not awake to wealth. Not awake to titles. Not awake to fear. But awake to truth. And in that truth, he found the only power worth having. The power to protect life, the courage to face betrayal, and the wisdom to recognize who really mattered. The mansion, Ashley James, they were memories now, ghosts of a life built on lies. Michael did not need revenge. He did not need wealth. He did not need the illusions of loyalty or success. All he needed was the life he had fought for, and the person who had never let him face death alone. Jessica smiled again, and he knew that together, they had not just survived. They had rewritten the rules. Michael Cole had lost almost everything. And yet, he had finally gained everything that truly mattered. If this story moved you, hit that like button. It helps us tell more stories of integrity and hope. And tell me in the comments, what was the hardest, right, choice you ever had to make? I read every single one. I'm Pub Stories, and I'll see you in the next one.